Do you want to know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to Real Talk Radio 97.5 FM, KDW Radio, the City of Northport's emergency broadcasting network, brought to you by our favorite sponsor, one of our favorite sponsors, Remax Palm Realty, for sponsoring our emergency broadcasting tower. We do appreciate that. And I've got a very special guest in the house today, first timer. Not the first time listener, but the first timer on the show, Mr. Rick Severance from Wellen Park. How are you doing, sir?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. So give us a quick overview of Wellen Park in what your vision was.
Wow. Quick. That's an interesting, I don't know if I can do it quickly, but I'll try. You know, when I was brought in, I was previously the president of Babcock and kind of recruited away to rebrand what was historically the West Villages and really start to take it out of the ground, create the growth vehicle. And the intention was to create an element of diversity and a master plan that was more than just a bedroom community. That was the intention. So for us, a lot of that is the different stakeholders associated with what makes a master plan. And that's healthcare and recreation and education. And of course, the downtown, you know, candidly, we didn't have a good, what I'll call main and high in that area. And so we created a place really for everyone. You know, you don't have to be a resident of Wellen Park to enjoy downtown. But the intention was really to influx of placemaking into the land holdings. We had about 11,000 acres and try to create some continuity amongst the neighborhoods and the residents. So they had an opportunity to know their neighbors and neighbors from other neighborhoods, not just their own. So that was the original intention.
Fantastic. You mentioned you came from a location. I love that location, by the way. So highlight a little bit about your past there and how that transitions over to Wellen Park today.
Well, I mean, I think it's a daisy chain, candidly. This will be my sixth large format master plan. I've been the CEO. I was the CEO of Seaside, which was the set of the Truman Show. We were Time Magazine's Development of the Decade, a lot of accolades. And I cut my teeth on Seaside and a number of the neighborhoods and developments along the Panhandle in Florida, and then have done others all over the Caribbean and the United States. But this will be my sixth downtown. So one of the things that I was most proud of, I think, was, you know, every single time you do something, you learn from it, right? You put more, I say put more arrows in the quiver. You also learn from your mistakes, things that you did or you tried that, you know, didn't necessarily work, so you don't do them again. Or given the land plan, have an opportunity to layer in things that maybe you weren't able to do in a past life. Babcock was a little bit interesting. Nothing was on the ground when I was brought in as the president. Right. Sid has an amazing vision for what that place could be. Sure, and I was really fortunate to help, you know, implement and augment the strategy early on so that we actually had the first neighborhoods in the commercial area. And so that was really great. And then I took that opportunity and just leveraged that to what I'm doing now.
Fantastic. And I, you know, as a Northport citizen, to imagine a downtown within the city limits of Northport is amazing for us, because there's so much joy when you go to Sarasota downtown. There's a lot of joy when you go to the Venice downtown, but to have downtown Wellen Park in the city of Northport is super special to all of us who have been here. I've been here since 2000, and I love coming down and walking the streets. I love being part of the fabric of the start of what you've laid out. And we're going to get into more of that as we go. But one of the cool things that you've done for us is given us a downtown and given us the feel of a downtown. Each area within Northport looks at Wellen Park differently. I don't like to go into the negative side, and we talked a little bit about that before. But there is a lot of excitement about the Wellen Park area being truly part of the city of Northport.
Yeah, and you know what? We couldn't
Feel
have
the
done
same way.
it. I would tell you, we couldn't have done it without the city. Our relationship with the city is outstanding. The city of Northport, sure, when we first got here, I've been here almost 5.5 years, and they had their struggles when we first
Sure.
came on board, and I think it was in 2019. Everybody from the commission to the city manager, staff, planning and development, they've been wonderful to work with. And I say it every single time I'm interviewed, because it doesn't happen unless a municipality creates an environment for you to be successful. I mean, we have a situation where we allow city vehicles, instead of having to go all the way back to City Hall, they can actually get into the Wellen Park for permitting, and they're able to leave their vehicles there, so they don't have to spend an extra, an hour and 15 minutes every day just in the car. They've been wonderful to work with. And we're excited to be able to be good listeners when it comes to what does the city want for Northport, and how can Wellen Park help and assist in providing some of that. And then that's even down to the economic development folks. So we want to be good partners and good stewards.
And I love the fact that I love the fact that we're talking about Northport in this fashion. We've got the Atlanta Braves there, some great homes, some great builders in the area. Mattamy is definitely one of the leaders in the nation. We've got Lennar there; it's a leader in the nation. There's a huge draw for the builders side of things within the Wellen Park area, but that commercial side of things, I think getting down to the nitty gritty of it all, that's what we're super excited about. Can you highlight why
Sure.
Wellen Park is such a magnet right now for the commercial industry?
Yeah. So I would say we're really fortunate. You don't know this, but you'll be the first. We're breaking ground on phase 2 of the downtown. That's how successful phase 1 has been. So we're going to be adding another 45,000 square feet, almost doubling the size of what's down there currently. And then I would say it's the kit of parts. It's not one thing that makes it commercially viable. I think you've got access to workforce, and we've added over 590 jobs in the last 18 months. And
Right.
Those aren't all just restaurant jobs. You know what I mean? They're all the way up to, surgeons and doctors and white collar jobs as well. I think you have a great school system in Sarasota County. So you have decent workforce, educated, you have the college that's there. I think the access to 41, the access to 75, and then for people that want to live, you're only 8-9 miles from the beach. So you have the opportunity. I think it's like a perfect storm of positivity. And I think people believe in us also. One of the things I would say we are most proud of as a team is that we have over-delivered. We haven't under-delivered. We've promised, and then we've over-delivered. And people want to try to point the finger and say, hey, the developer is only in it for themselves. We don't spend $50 million on, water treatment plants and stuff like that, for the goodness, just for our own personal benefit. We see the long-term benefit, and we'll get paid back over 20, 30 odd years, but we fronted that money because we want to create a great place. If we didn't have that infrastructure, I don't think the commercial folks like Costco and Casco Medical Office and Millennium Physicians Group and Sarasota Memorial Hospital and HCA Hospital Group, I don't think that they would come, because there just wouldn't be the pent up or the built in demand.
Yeah, I agree with you. And the excitement that you've brought, and I think it's carried on from your past into this because of what you did at Babcock. Babcock was a really strategic plan that no one had up before. Sid did a great job getting that put into its own little world.
My parents live there. My parents live in Babcock.
Okay.
And I live in Fort Myers, so I actually commute up to Northport. I would say, Sid, as a visionary, was so far ahead of his time. He outlined, I think it was 7 or 8 very strategic initiatives, and sustainability. People talked about it, but nobody was really willing to put themselves out there and mandate that was how that they were going to develop. And a tremendous amount of pride that I was even included in that company. So really enjoyed my time there. Hopefully, I added some value before I moved on.
Do you feel like it helped you hone more skills because of that different environment that you were in?
Oh, of course. Every single time you, whether it's a job, and I own a consulting firm, so you're always with different clients. I believe you're very fortunate to learn from every single client, whether that's best practices or what not to do, or areas of opportunity. So I think every single place I've ever been, every client I've ever had, has really just brought me to this place. Sometimes my staff even laughs. I'm a bit of a Swiss Army knife in that. What do you mean you used to run a diamond and retail conglomerate in the Cayman Islands? What? So I bring all these weird experiences to what the role is, and that makes it kind of fun because every day is a little bit different.
Fantastic. I kind of warned you that this would happen, but I've got 2 questions back to back. Do you have any interest in expanding or creating a smaller, similar area in Legacy Northport? And that question is from Robin San Vicente.
Hi, Robin. Actually, Mattamy made an investment in a sizable one when they purchased the land, and it's 11,000 acres. So Wellen Park, you're only seeing what I would call the tip of the iceberg. We have another 3,500 acres in unincorporated Sarasota County, and that's another 8,900 dwelling units. So we've got our hands full for the next 30 years. I don't think we're going to be in the acquisition mode of remote properties. I don't think that will happen.
And how is Wellen Park? And I'm not going to talk about the surrounding areas because I already know how it's going to affect them. But how's it going to affect the citizens of Northport? How do you envision that playing out with the citizens of Northport?
I love the adage that the tide rises all boats. And so I made reference to this at the top. But the greatest part about a downtown, we have live music every single night right now. It's not ticketed. You can go experience whether you're living in downtown, off Tucker or off Sumter. If you're in one of the legacy neighborhoods, if you are on the other side of the Mayaca, you can participate, whether that's date night, whether that's you're coming for ice cream with the grandkids, you're coming for a concert, you're coming for a lecture series about entrepreneurism. We don't put up barriers to experience downtown Wellen Park in particular. It's very similar to the Braves, right? Yes, it's in Northport, but in reality, anyone can come and experience that. So,
fantastic. I've got another question. This is from Elaine Emmerich. How much do you believe Wellen Park commerce contributed to the impact fees and the penny sales tax?
I'm not sure. In candor, I'm not sure. I don't know. Other than we kind of set a precedent in terms of quality and rates. But I don't know if I can answer that definitively.
Okay, very fair. I'd rather you do that than misrepresent. How about that?
Right.
So I do have one other question before we jump into the slides, and it's from Robin again. And can you inform the community as to how you safeguard the environment and wildlife into your communities?
Sure. So there's a few things that I'm really proud of when it comes to the environment. We've layered in solar lighting. When we built the last 2 lakes, the ecosystems that we've been able to generate as it relates to create the creation of, so it's flora and fauna. We spent $1 million saving heritage oak trees, including the biggest one that's in downtown, which was 96 inches in diameter. and what the carbon does to save those rather than destroy them. And was that an easy investment? No, but it was the right thing to do. So, I would also say we haven't mitigated, gosh, a full acre of wetlands since I've been there. So we're continuing to work around the wetlands because those are beautiful ecosystems unto themselves. I think also, access to water, and we have our water permit and access to that water as a source water. We've been combining all of the lakes to ensure that we can utilize as much storm and runoff as possible and mix that, which is, can be expensive otherwise for the residents. And the other thing we've been doing is, I know this sounds funny, but we have our brand new community garden, which launches next week. We have the farmers market where we're integrating, organics, which is wonderful. We have the tree planting program. So we have a volunteer Earth Day. It's over 3 days, 3 times in the last 3 years, 2 Earth Days and then 1 other day. We've done volunteer tree plantings. We've planted over 800 pine saplings around Wellen Park. And we'll continue to do that. And then this year, actually, we gave out tree saplings as well. So, I feel like we're doing what we can. Could you always do more? And we've started layering in more solar, and we've started designing buildings that they can take solar and then integrate that into their operating expenses. So we're trying wherever we can. How's that?
Yeah, I think it's a great answer. The word progress comes into mind when you're doing a project at your level. With that, there comes some. I don't want to call them setbacks because they're not setbacks; they're workarounds. The wildlife, trees, different things like that. There are ways to strategize around that. Do you feel like you guys have done an effective job, or do you see yourself getting better at it as it goes?
Great question. Yes, I think we're effective, and I think we're always getting better.
Fantastic. What are some of the things that you like on a personal level with coming from Babcock to Wellen Park? What are some of the things that you learned in that transition to bring that new innovative style and maybe a cleaner build process?
When we were selecting the architects for downtown, instead of taking a more passive role and letting the architects drive, because again, this will be my 6th downtown, so I know where people need to go to the bathroom, how do they park, how do people service the access alleys when they want the Cisco truck or the propane truck. I took a much heavier hand with the design than I would have because I inherited the plan a little bit. It had already been pre-established somewhat with Babcock. So I didn't leave a lot of that stuff to chance. I took a really heavy hand with some of the decision making. And I would say it's also different municipalities, right? So Charlotte County and Lee County are very different than Northport and Sarasota. I would say we really tried when I made the leap, also to have heavy stratification of pricing and product. I felt like Babcock was able to start off, but maybe a little bit slower because they had an idea of the kind of architecture that they wanted, but yet the market wasn't quite ready. And because it was a little further out there on 31, there was no there yet, right? So you couldn't really set the bar as high as maybe you wanted to. Here, it was really important that we had a diversification of product and pricing. We started when I got here, it was 5 builders, and in 5 years, we're now on 17. And then we didn't have any multifamily. And now we have 1,900 multifamily and rentals with 5 different developers. So the intent for me was, try to make the net broader so that you could get more in the net. And I felt like we didn't necessarily have that vision when we came out of the gate at Babcock, but they certainly are doing phenomenal now.
I'm glad that you talked about the add-ons there with the builders. We've learned as citizens, because as far as cities go, we're an infant. It's 60 plus years old, 65 years old, and so we learn and we look at things different. We've been somewhat selfish, I think, at times when we look at our city, and we've been here for 20 years and we look at it as oh my gosh, it's just trees everywhere. And then you start realizing, and everybody kind of goes through this, that the land that you're looking at, it's projected to be something else. But in saying that, the commercial side of things, and you would know as the pro that you are, the commercial side of things, they look at rooftop, they look at density, they look at all those things. Can you educate the rest of Northport, seriously, on what the commercial side of things, what they look at before they say, yes, let's go ahead and do that? Because we aren't a dense community. We're kind of spread out. Can you
No,
talk a little
it's
bit
really
about that?
interesting too. We talk about the land. Most people, they make an assumption that we are clear cutting a bunch of the ranch. You know, Thomas Ranch, now Wellen Park. The majority of that land was all active pasture, so it was all being worked as pasture. There, even though we have a silviculture permit to remove trees, we don't have to and need to, because most of these were open pastures for feeding. You asked specifically about commercial. It's such an interesting question, because every single resident meeting I have, they ask, well, can you get, or why haven't you done a Fresh Market or a Whole Foods? And I just use those as examples, right? And
Sure.
and I'll say, well, because they haven't called. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, you have to understand everything goes into a matrix. They need to have a certain average household income, certain net worth. There needs to be occupancy per home, and there needs to be so many rooftops or residents within a 2 or 5 mile radius. And then they look at the mapping and what the competitive set is around them. And if there's other competitors, let's say Publix, and there's more Publix in that particular market, they may not see themselves as a fit for that market. They may be looking for something else. So, though we may want certain things, I love a Pop Stroke or a Top Golf. I'd love those. I don't think we're there yet because we don't have the rooftops. But a lot of it has to do with things that we don't necessarily control, but that might come to fruition when we are more 10 years in. So.
Fantastic. So I'm going to slide into the first slide. We're imagining more as we go through this, and you just talked about phase 2. Why don't you go ahead and take us through the slide presentation?
Sure. I'll make this really quick, but anyone who's ever heard me speak, when we were named the West Villages, we didn't own that name. We didn't own the name, the trademark, or the URL. So it's very hard for me to do what I do if I can't control the brand. And so we did a series. We started with 500 names. We did a series, went down to 50, brought all the builders in, had them vote. Wellen Park was, heads and tails, the winner. Wellen means waves and water in Dutch and in German, respectively, I think, and wellness. So we needed something we could control. And the intention was just to put a halo over the West Villages. So the West Villages became a district within, like the historic district, if you will, within Wellen Park. We have a downtown district, and we have the Playmore district, which are the neighborhoods there. The one thing that was interesting is, and I'll be really try to be a little funny here. When I got here, the image in the top left of the two people on the beach, they're in Walmart chairs, nobody's drinking, the guy's in a trap, and we're marketing a pool cage. And I just said, well, I'd really want to create a space where the bottom right, that's where I'd want to live. I wouldn't necessarily, because that, to me, that says joy and it says vibrancy, and that's really what we wanted. So we created the Welcome Center to try to evoke that and emote that. And the good news is we ended up winning, Sales Center of the Year for the entire nation in 2021, which was a huge coup. Great partners on the design side of that. And then the top right-hand image, I had been looking for food trucks for the downtown. We're going to do permanent food trucks. And I kept coming across these vintage delivery trucks from Italy. And I thought, gosh, wouldn't that make a great reception desk? Because, a lot of desks aren't very receptive. You've got this connection, especially if you're going to talk about price or product with a customer. This created an intimacy where people were really willing to come up to the laptop and give us their information. So and the Welcome Center, before we even turned dirt downtown, gave people a glimpse as to the quality and what we intended to do. And then we also have an artist in residence program, the Northport Arts Center and now the Art Alliance. They rotate every 60 days, and we rotate 2 different artists inside the Welcome Center. So I felt like it was a great start, and we really got to cut our teeth on creating the sense of place there.
Fantastic. There's a comment that says keep catering to the wealthy. I don't think you're catering to the wealthy. I think you're building a downtown.
It says keep catering to the wealthy.
Keep catering to the wealthy.
Interesting. That's one perspective. Here's another perspective. Everybody wasn't born wealthy. They work hard and they get there. So why wouldn't we be catering to everyone that was on the path of trying to better themselves, better their families? And, I don't know where I am now, but I know when I first got out of college, I lived in an apartment. I know before I got married, I lived in an apartment. You see what I mean? So I think you have to be really sensitive when you say stuff like that.
And I think the other side of it is that a downtown space that you're talking about, even the entertainment district side of what you're talking about, that's servicing everyone, because the people that work at those locations don't necessarily live there, but they're making good money because it is part of the fabric of Northport now. And
I would say as long as you increase, as long as you keep your standards high and your commitment to quality high, that's what's important to me. Catering to one economic profile, we wouldn't be successful if we only catered to one.
And I gotta ask this, because I've been there. I can answer it myself, but I want you to answer it. I don't see price points out of range when I go to dinner up there in comparison to anywhere else.
Well, we're less expensive than Lakewood. We're more expensive than the Babcock. I think we're on par with Palmer. And those are just the 4 kind of large format, master plans around us. I would say one of the things I'm proud of is that when I talked about pricing stratification, we have product for everyone. We have paired villas, we have rentals, we have rental homes, we have rental cottages, little small houses. They're not more than 800 square feet. They're fantastic to look at. And we have apartments, we have age restricted apartments. We also have $3 million houses. Right. So I'm proud of the fact that if you wanted to be in Wellen Park, I bet we've got something for you.
Yeah. And actually have jobs there,
right.
Which is, that is something I think that we, as a city, I think we're all getting more excited about, is because while 90% of our people drive away to go to work, the more that we build it with the strategy of keeping people local. That environmental, back to earlier where we were talking about the environmental, we've designed our roads to handle low speed vehicles. We call them golf carts, right? We give out electric bikes at closings. One of the builders is giving away golf carts at closings so that we have less, car traffic. And if you are able to live, work, and in the same environment, where you're taking less than a mile to go to work or go to the office, that helps everybody, right? Right. I agree. It helps across the board. And phase 2, you said phase 2 is happening when?
Phase 2, we're breaking ground next week. I'm sorry. I think we break ground on the 10th.
Yep.
Of September.
I think that's 2 weeks out.
Yep.
So I knew that was coming. I did know that. I don't do too much research when I do these shows, but
yeah, we're really excited about that. It'll be very similar to
the excitement really gets out there when people, are super stoked about phase 2. Tell us the difference between phase 2 and phase 1 for you.
Phase one had more experiential considerations. So you had Solis Hall, which acted as the band shell or the band stage overlooking the Grand Lawn. You have the playground. You have the yard area with the food containers and the outfitter for the water. Phase two is really very similar to the two-story building that's in downtown. They almost mirror each other. Second floor offices, first floor retail. We have a wine bar, Pilates studio, hair salon, breakfast, lunch place. We have what do they call that? A pet supply and that kind of store. It's been really interesting. The people that I did say the Pilates studio. We've got grain and berry and fresh juices and stuff like that. So excited about the offerings there.
Fantastic. Commissioner Barbara Langdon said, "Hi, Rick and John. I'm out of town, but I am enjoying the conversation."
One of my favorites. She's phenomenal.
Robin says, "Thank you for what you are doing and being more sensitive to the environment and wildlife. By then a lot of other developers out
there. Yeah. Thank you for that. It's just got to be mindful about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was wondering that when you said Babcock, there are some sensitivities that happen there, but to bring that knowledge forward, and now you had that control. You kind of talked about that change from Babcock, but how have you felt? Like, you as Rick, how have you felt like you've handled the environment, you've handled the city, you've handled citizens, and you've given the product that they deserve to have?
Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Be fair, be consistent. I'm a man of God and I'm also a man of character. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. I make mistakes all the time, but you just try to not make them again. I couldn't do anything without the people and the team that we've surrounded ourselves with. And so, there's 3 other folks on the executive committee, and each one of them possesses a skill set that I don't, which really makes for a great team, right? I always want to hire people that are better than I am around me. John Lazinski, who's our head of land development, he's an engineer, and of course I'm not. So the best part of that is being able to assemble the team, but also add the value you can by having led other companies and consulted mergers and acquisitions and all the other stuff I'd ever done. Being able to layer that into what our vision is now has been really a blessing for me. And I was just sharing this with my wife last night. Just got what I would call God's favor. It's just been amazing. I absolutely love what I do. And I love what I do because I've been empowered and we've earned the trust. And I think we have good relationships. And I referenced it earlier. It's because we continue to over deliver.
That seems to be an emphasis for you. I love it too, because I don't overpromise. I over deliver.
You have those naysayers out there that want to continue to take pot shots at the developer, and it's. I always just say, where's the ledger? Show me where the ledger is, because I'm always going to be on the right side of the ledger.
Well, and we're in an election year, and not that I need to blow that
really?
up. Yeah,
I didn't know.
Shocker. And we have a lot of people that attack. I think even more so during an election year, they attack the commercial side of things. I don't want to talk about elections. I don't want to talk about that. But what I'd like to talk about is, why should citizens be conscious of what commercial does for them?
It's such an interesting, more global conversation. What I find very interesting is when you get a naysayer or somebody who's against commercial growth or commercial development, And I get put on the spot sometimes, and I ask them, I'm like, where did you get your milk? And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, do you have a cow in their backyard? Is there a dairy cow in your backyard, or did you go someplace to buy your milk or your coffee or what have you? I said, that's commercial. So you are part of the fabric. Now, how much commercial and how mindful it is and what it looks like, those are all things that I think people want to have their fingerprints in to ensure that they're around things that make them feel good, that look good, that have good experiences, they're easy to park, those kinds of things. But the folks that are really strongly against commercial development, I always find it very odd, because they obviously enjoy commercial development to be able to live their lives. They may live far remotely from it, because that's a choice in terms of where they live. They may live on 6 acres, what have you. But at the end of the day, they still go to the store, and they still go to the movies, and they still get their gas. So it's just being mindful about how you do it and making sure that it isn't overserving a population, that it's on par with, you're putting as much out there as there is demand, that you're not overdeveloping and there's not enough demand there. So I think it's just, again, that word's important to me, being mindful.
And services, jobs, everything. But 2 hospitals coming in, those are massive. Those are massive pickups for Wellen Park, Northport, along with the fact that the Atlanta Braves are there. You've got like a trifecta going on in that area.
And how about the schools, right?
That's it.
I mean, with the schools coming online, you've got 2 VPKs. You just had the charter school open. You have the high school opening in 2026. Having residential options for teachers. We have the emergency services facility inside Wellen Park as well. So you've got firefighters and police officers. I just love that it's the gamut. And that's what a true city is, right? We're not a city, but I think great places have multiple disciplines and ways for people to live,
they I know I want to slide on to the next slide, but
sure.
The excitement that Wellen Park is bringing isn't just here. We're getting recognized around the country.
Yeah.
And you corrected one of the things, and I put that back up, but on the banner, I had the 4th fastest selling master plan community, and now we're the 6th. But a step back of 2 spots.
I will say this though, John, I couldn't be prouder of it, because we're not just selling homes. That's just one metric, right? That's just number of home sales. And in some instances, it's about supply as much as it is about demand. But the fact that we've done a Costco deal, Millennium Physicians Group, Casto Medical Office, 2 hotels, 5, let's say, family deals. We have the commercial downtown, the hospitals, the job creation. To me, it's the gamut. I love this, all the stakeholders. That's just one metric, but I couldn't be prouder of us and our success with all those other elements as well.
And let's go on to slide number 2, which is the 2018 master plan.
Yeah, so everything you see is in green, hasn't been touched, 11,000 acres. The reason I show this is because kind of the before and the after. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what it looks like today. So it's over 25,000 density units, which is pretty interesting. We're selling about 1,000 a year. I've referenced a lot of these statistics just in terms of size and scale. I don't want to. Excuse me 1 second. I want to make sure I don't run out of juice on my computer. Apologize. And back to the diversification, which is really what this slide, but it shows you how big it is.
What's the impact that you feel we're getting here in Northport when you talk to Sarasota as a county?
I'm on the EDC, the board of the EDC for Sarasota County, and as is Barbara and Jerome is there at the meetings all the time, just to make sure that South County has proper representation. We have continued. We have our entitlements in Sarasota County. We haven't yet developed down there, but I think the relationship is positive. And Ron Cutzinger has been at every event that we have, and certainly Neil's been wonderful. We're anxious to have a relationship, obviously, with the sheriff as well. Heard really great things, and he lives proximate. So, I think it's all about relationships, and we'll continue to foster those.
Awesome. I'm going to slide on to number 5, which is a beautiful picture.
That's one of the trees. That's the heritage tree that's 96 inches in diameter. And we saved that from the ranch and moved it into position. It had to move 8/10 of a mile. Yeah, 8/10 of a mile. They moved it on these rolling, they're called tensile tubes. They fill them with water and they roll them to hold the root balls. And then when we dug it, a palm tree was in the middle. So we got 2 for 1. But that just gives you an indication of the program.
You're kind of a stone's throw away from the Oak at this point. What is that restaurant that's there?
Oak and Stone.
Just have play on.
That was a good setup.
Yes, it was.
Setup. I can venture to guess, John, that you've had maybe a cold beverage on the roof deck there.
Maybe.
Just one.
And maybe you shot too low several times. So wonderful place. I've been to the oh my gosh, farmers market.
Great.
Love it. A lot of vendors. We have a farmers market down on Toledo Blade now,
good.
by the hospital, and they do a great job with that. A lot of the same vendors are there, and on Saturdays, and I think it really works out well because the camaraderie between all of the vendors.
Yeah,
they're really talking about Northport as a place to be,
as a hot spot. We're so much demand. We had 160 people on the waiting list for the farmers market, so we started doing a night market because the farmers market really is supposed to be more about culinary, food and beverage, organic, and then the night market, it's a little bit more arts and crafts, and so we tried to make sure we could complement those. So we're excited about adding that in.
Well, and I see that growing. Are you ready for that?
We're ready. I don't know if you saw, but we have accelerated our parking. We're doing a brand new parking lot with an extra 281 spots. And then we also did an overflow because obviously our concerts with, First Friday concerts with No Filter, you're getting on average about 5,000 people. So I have a mentor that told me a long time ago, the greatest places in the world have a parking problem. And so when people complain, I'm sorry that it's so positive and that so many people want to be there, and we'll do our best to make sure we can park people effectively.
Well, and No Filter would absolutely put a stress test on anyone's parking situation.
And it's been interesting too. It's not just No Filter. You've got the dueling pianos, which are on Thursdays. I think the third Thursday of every month. You're getting 3,000, 4,000 people for the dueling pianos. I mean, so we're starting to get these little signature things and artists, even, guys with their guitar that have been so well followed. And what we've done is we've started having them perform under the tree instead of on the stage, which is how we started with the dueling pianos. It got so successful, we had to move it to the stage, and now there's 3,000 people. It's just crazy.
But that'll tell you what people are craving.
Right. Craving community. They're creating connection. They want to know their neighbors, which I love. That's why these meetups, like we have cycling meetups and running meetups. And, I didn't know what Tai Chi was, but I came out the other day. There's like 35 people on the lawn doing Tai Chi. I think I'd seen it in movies or something. I couldn't believe it. It's absolutely true though. Community, I say it, and I have said it publicly. It's not about the bricks and the sticks and the buildings, and it isn't. Community is built on the soul of people. People make a community. And that's what I like more than anything, is that we've created this place where people can feel proud of where they live, and they're excited about sharing that with others.
Yeah, it's definitely a magnet. It's a magnet. Whew. And really, when you're there and you're leaving, I almost appreciate it more when I'm leaving. And it's not because I'm leaving, it's because you get to take a deep breath, relax, and realize that it's the beginning of the process. And you're enjoying the beginning of the process. If you just let yourself go and enjoy the growth that's coming. It is really a good controlled downtown environment with I think community engagement written all over
Yeah, I would. Well, that's one of the goals. So I'm glad that you feel that way.
it.
And there was a trick I learned. I had done some consulting with the villages, the actual villages, and they made a conscious choice in all of their downtowns for the experience to feel as good from the parking lot as it did from when you're in front of the restaurant. And so one of the things we really try to do is when you park and you walk into Wellen Park downtown, that you have this sense like I don't feel like I'm in the backyard. I don't feel like I'm in the back of the back of house. You feel like it's been very well thought out. So I'm pretty proud of that because I think it turned out wonderfully. And the architects did a nice job of helping us do that, of course.
Fantastic. So I'm going to slide on slide number 6.
Yeah, this just gives you a list of the current retailers where HCA's healthcare campus is. And then what you see now, which is undeveloped parcel right next to downtown, they actually break ground on 357 new apartments and townhomes for rent, on that parcel that says future multifamily. I think they break ground in October. So there'll be a lot of activity.
A lot more building going on.
And Grand Living, which was the ILAL memory care facility, they started with 110 jobs just for that one facility. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, listen, crazy good.
No, I mean that. Like
Yeah,
I guess I wasn't thinking, and they have everyone from doctors to nurses to healthcare professionals, and then they have food and beverage folks and housekeeping, but it runs the gamut in there. This just gives you some images of Wellen Park downtown. We have a commitment to the arts. That's a mural that was painted on the backside of Building 4 because the apartments will ultimately look at that back of the building. I wanted it to be beautiful, and we commissioned that to a gentleman named Ivan, and his last name escapes me, and he just won the bronze medal in the national mural competition in the United States for that mural. Isn't that crazy? It's wonderful.
But it's nice. Is he local?
He isn't. He's on the other coast. He's Florida local, which is, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we did was you can actually take your phone during COVID. We wanted to give them something to do. You could take your phone and scan that on a QR code in 7 different hotspots around downtown. And we have augmented reality. So like that big heron comes to life and looks at you. We have fish coming out of the water. We teach about the turtles. And the native environment of saving the gopher tortoises. So there's all kinds of little fun things in downtown that people don't quite know, but it gives them a reason to come back time and again.
Well, I'm glad you brought these things up because people who are sensitive to the environment, sensitive to the wildlife, they also need to know that there's education within what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
Next slide.
You're gonna have to keep going. There you go.
There we are.
I said it earlier that it was really to just have diversification, and I think we've touched on a lot of this already. But diversification, these are the hallmarks. This mixed use, healthcare, retail, commercial, lodging, education, recreation, and then residential options. And I feel like we're doing a pretty good job at all of them, and that makes me proud of the team for sure.
Well, you've got a really cool mix going on for sure right now.
Thank you.
So here's
your healthcare providers. Yep. You've got Millennium Physicians Group, Sarasota Memorial, HCA, and you also have Casco Medical Office. And that doesn't include Dr. Seymour, who's in downtown, who's an orthodontist, Dr. Lackey, who's in downtown, who does all kinds of like rejuvenation, but does veins and other work as well. He's wonderful. So we're getting a lot of ancillary healthcare as well, which I think is proven very positive for the residents.
Fantastic.
And commercial and retail. 2 hotels. So we have the new Tribute Hotel going downtown, which is a Marriott boutique hotel. And then the Braves, they purchased the site next to their stadium for a Braves hotel. I actually have a meeting with the CEO next week. You see Costco and then obviously Publix, and then more and more commercial. Publix is already looking at their second site, which is exciting. We have a Starbucks coming, a few other things.
So I'm going to say something that probably will get a couple of commissioners excited. Bed tax.
Right.
The city of Northport has been forever forever behind the eight ball when it comes to bed tax on hotels, and it's nice that it was nice to get I don't want to say first. I want to be careful. How about our first mid to upper class motel? We have some really cool motels that are still in the area, but the newer builds, the draws to the area, that's kind of the difference that I'm talking about, and that's a huge impact for a city too.
Well, that's back to commitment to quality. But when I have to stay up there for events or what have you, I've stayed at the Hampton, I've stayed at the ones on Jacaranda, but that Hampton in Northport's fantastic.
Yes.
And I mean, from the service level to just the proximity and everything else, it's wonderful. So I do feel like the downtown hotel will probably elevate any hotel that is currently in Northport, but also complement. And I think the Braves are really excited about having some of that inventory closer to them so they can do their tournaments and people don't have to travel from Charlotte County, if you will, to be part of the game.
They're not just excited. I'm sorry. That's a really weak word
Okay.
for what
All
they're
right.
doing.
Okay.
Because if I had that venue and I had the hotel, I I I would be doing backflips from the upper deck.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's the excitement they're feeling, and this is all coming together as a huge picture that you had in your head, that you've envisioned. Is this on track of what you envisioned, or have you adapted to some changes along the way to make it better?
Yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's certainly. I couldn't be prouder of how I thought it was going to play out, and then the built environment. And there are some times that I'll be on that roof deck at Oak and Stone, and I'll look to see how people interact with the space, just to see if they're interacting the way we had originally intended. I mean, I probably would have done a bigger playground, because when you have the littles and then the tweens in the same space, they need a little bit more elbow room. But for the most part, yes, it's accomplished everything that I hoped it would. And then, like I said, you still have to learn. So if I had done it differently, or now that I'm seeing how much demand is on the downtown, would I have done a different playground? Probably a larger playground. Some of the medians in the major thoroughfares, I'd like to do a little bit more of the muley grasses and the natural water tolerant stuff rather than sod, because it just doesn't hold up very well. We'll make some of those field adjustments. It'll feel a little bit softer, and we'll probably plant even more tree saplings just to soften some of those roadscapes. So for the most part, I'd give the team an A, and I think always strive for the A+. How's that?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So you got education. We've got about 3 minutes left, but I'm going to do this to you too. I'm going to put you on the spot. I would love to have you back on after phase 2 is kind of in full mode of build out. I've truly enjoyed this. I think the citizens need to hear from you more, so they know what to expect.
Happy to help you. And on the education front, one of the things I think is amazing that no one really knows is the State College of Florida has a collegiate high school embedded in Wellen Park. And you come out with your associate's degree and you get guaranteed acceptance to FGCU and USF, I think, and they pay 60% of your tuition.
Fantastic.
I think that's incredible. I just think that's incredible.
Where was it when we were in school?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. And then the next slide, I think, recreation amenities. Again, adding the new community garden, which we're excited. We had started with 39 plots, including some limited mobility plots, so you can get wheelchairs underneath them. And then we're working on some recreational. That's a pump track, something more for the outdoor enthusiasts in the bottom right.
Fantastic. This is exciting stuff.
And we've talked about a lot of this. So this is just our multifamily partners. And then if you go to the next slide, it's all the builders. If you go to the next slide, you're going to see that what we've talked about, the events and the programming. That middle image at the top is no filter on a Friday night.
I
You
love
you
them.
can just see how crazy it is. And
I'm
then
a fan.
we did something fun where we did the luminescence where you could write, you could pay homage to somebody, write it on a luminary bag and put it out in memorial of, and that went really well as well. So trying to do some new fun stuff.
Quick question before we get off the air here. With the continuation of the development and the already existing infrastructure, are there any situations of obstacles that you find that are extremely difficult?
The political answer, yeah, focusing on the 98% and not the 2%.
Okay.
The hardest part is spending the time where you're adding the most joy and providing the most return on investment, not just for the shareholders, right, for our company, but for the residents as a whole. Ironically, that 2% or 1% or 0.5% of the residents who just continually want to be negative and want to complain about living here, sometimes you just want to say, if it's really that bad, maybe you should find another place to live. But I always try to be a good listener because there's always a nugget of truth into the why they feel the way they feel. And if you're not an active listener, you may not be able to pick up on that. So hopefully I at least listen, but I got to focus on the 98%, not the 2.
Great answer. Great answer. I wish more people would do that.
So do I.
Arts and culture.
There you go. Everything we've talked about. I will say we did from a past life. I brought projection art, and so we will be doing the top right hand image. We'll be doing projection art, surprising places all throughout the season, and then we'll actually do a projection art festival where we project art onto the buildings themselves.
Oh man, kind of thinking of all the little cool things, aren't you, along the way?
You know what? I think those are the things that make when you drive away, John. I think that's why you go, wait, wow, that was different. Why was that different? I don't even know why it was. And I think it's some of those smaller details. So for what that's worth, I think the devil is in the details when it comes to placemaking.
Yeah. So what do we have here?
This is just a picture of the shade structure in your oak and stone, and you can keep going if it'll let you. And then this is not a photoshopped picture. I love this. This is a drone. This is during the Luminescence Festival, and we had the Youth Yachting Club, Sarasota Yachting Club. They put all their youth boats in the water. It's just beautiful. It's just absolutely beautiful. For me, this is just, we're just striving to create value. That's what we're trying to do. And that's value. Value can be, you want your house to appreciate. Value could be for somebody who's investing in a business. Value could be your quality of life. That's what we're trying to do. So hopefully we've done that.
What's truly amazing is if you would have not been on the show and somebody would have showed me this picture, I would have not said it was in Northport.
Hey, I never really thought of that. Yeah, you're probably right.
No, the look of it, just the image of the picture, and it does not, like, I've been here for 24 years. It doesn't represent us. We all need to make some adjustments, visually and mentally, to what our community is not just gonna be, will be.
And I would actually say John is, because Wellen Park is Northport. So we see ourselves as part of the fabric, both historical, legacy, growth. We're part of that. So we are part of Northport. Yes, we have holdings in Sarasota County, but we're already there, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing. The more I learn about it, listen, you've given great insight and great vision through your history. This is different. I look at it different now that I've talked to you because of your passion, and how you've looked at it and how you've designed it out, what your thought processes are through it. And I can't wait to have you back on the show again.
Well, thank you for the invite. It must not have been too bad if you're going to invite me back. So I appreciate it.
Well, listen, I think you can up your game.
Okay, you just give me some notes. Give me the
Yeah,
notes, and I'll
yeah.
make sure
I'll
I
give you
come
some
back
tips along
stronger.
the way. But there's our sunset.
You know, I'm a runner and I run the property all the time because you get to see things at a different level. And I actually took this with my iPhone.
Wow.
That cool?
Yeah,
So pretty
super
cool.
cool. Super
Yeah.
cool. What, amazing pictures at Wellen Park on an amazing phone. The,
Yeah.
the phones have blown things apart as far as carrying a camera all the time. But man, we are so blessed to have the start of Wellen Park so we can see the end result. I can feel it right now with phase two. Um, what's your biggest thought in phase two and three? What is it that Rick is going to get motivated by?
Um, hmm. Delivering on what the customers want. I want to listen to, as we develop and we grow, I want to listen to what they want and have enough land to be able to accommodate them. And that's what's really important. So I want to be a good listener. And if we've made a mistake, I want to be able to pivot quickly. But the truth is, phase two and phase three. Phase two, we've been listening to the residents of what kind of offerings they want, what kind of retail, what kind of services, what kind of restaurants. So we're trying to factor those in. But some of the other stuff in phase three, I want some land that I can work with because I'm not sure what we should do with it yet. Because 10 years from now, I mean, think of what our world was 10 years ago in terms of how we use our phones, right?
Yep.
Or technology in general. There might be things that happen that I need to accommodate 10 years from now, and we need to have the land to do that. So being mindful of not going ahead and selling too much too fast.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really do appreciate it. We'll definitely set a time up to do more.
Great.
And look forward to talking to you a lot more as
Thanks.
this thing develops.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. This is John
Thank you.
Rollins with Real Talk Radio and Mr. Rick Severance from Wellen Park.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
And drive
Thanks,
safe
John.
getting home. Holiday weekend, be especially careful. Please slow down. Just get home. Take it easy, and keep everyone else around you safe by slowing down by 5 miles an hour. So if you're doing 100, get it under. Just slow down, people. Just slow down. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.